On Human's main page, there's a little bit of discussion about procedure naming conventions and Human's menu item trickle-down logic. So it's going to look for certain procedures with certain names to try and figure out what you want to have happen when a user does different things. So the default behavior in Maya, if you have something selected, you would say, I want to smooth that. Okay, boom, it smoothed it. However, if you wanted to do something different and actually change your options, you go to the option box, and Maya is going to pull up a UI with a bunch of different options available for you. That is essentially part of what we're trying to do with Human's trickle-down naming. If right now I go to examples, trickle, and I'm not going to use the option box, okay, boom. You've probably figured out all this is a wrapper for polysmooth because it just did the exact same thing as polysmooth over there. So it found an underscore menu item, and what that means is it's just going to run it based on selection. So that's a procedure written to function on a selection-based use of the tool. So what if I want to do a little bit more? Open up with the option box now. So this is opening it in a script UI. So I've got my layout because there is a layout found. And I've got my functions tab, my documentation tab. But let's go ahead and use the view and editor to see this. If I took away menu item, which is a script specifically designed to be used from a menu item, not with options. Therefore, there are no arguments for it. Let's just go ahead and delete that, save the script, and run the menu item again. Well, look at that. Something else happened. This time, the very next thing it found, and the next thing it's going to try and run, is an underscore window procedure. In this case, it's going to just pull up my layout with, my stuff. Let's say I've got a smooth button. Neat. Okay, and I can change my divisions. I want to do 4. Look at that. It's all extra smooth. But that was the very next thing it ran in the absence of a menu item. So now there is no automatic selection-based menu item. It just says, okay, bring up a UI. Now that's good in the cases that you think to yourself, well, look, there really is too much involved with this tool for me to write a completely selection-based version, so I'm going to need the UI to come up every time. So that's a reason you might use the window. We don't use the window almost ever here. It's meant generally as an override to the layout. So let's go back into here, and let's go ahead and delete the window. And this is a follow along at home so you can see it. So we deleted window. For now, leave this one open, and let's go try and run egTrickle again. Boom. Well, that looks extremely similar. So the very next thing on the checklist after menu item and window is underscore layout. And the underscore layout is just the same as a homemade window, except for there is absolutely no window in it. It's just layout information. So if you look in the script, you'll see that it just starts with a column layout and goes from there. The benefits to having an underscore layout for your UI, there are several reasons. The very, very first one is that you'll notice, sure, this looks almost the same, but it does have a menu. Allows me to resource, lets me to explore the directory the tool is in. Look at that. It's also going to hook me up to if the tool has a wiki. And it's also going to have access to the documentation, just like you saw in tabs, documentation tab, or in the specific tools tab itself. Tool documentation pulls up a whole window, and it's going to pull up the documentation for the core script information, but after the little dotted line here, it's going to bring up the documentation for the underscore layout. The reason that you would use this is essentially you know that you're going to build a layout for people, and you know that's the main way they're going to interact with this because you're not going to bother making a window of your own. And so this help viewer will say, okay, give me all the documentation for the layout as well. And that makes the layout a perfect place to put a simple description for end users as well as instructions. For the end user sort of user experience, which is kind of probably a picture that's coming together, it's going to be, you're going to go to things in Human and you're going to press a menu item and you're going to get a UI like this, and you're going to have some good support and a layout, and there you go. Another reason to have a layout procedure is it's the magic name that we look for when opening things in the option box. Not only do we have the layout available to you this way as an end user, but as a scripter, someone who's working on this, it shows up in its own tab next to functions and documentation. And so you really have different experiences for different users, or different experiences based on what it is you press, the option box or just the menu item. That's layout, and let's delete the layout too. The very next thing that you will try to do in the absence of a menu item, window, and layout is it's going to try and run a procedure of the same name. So you'll notice it tried to open egTrickle, which is the name of the script itself. But it opened it up in the option box, just as if you had done the exact same thing here, it opened it like that way. The reason is, it's going to try and run that script just as it is. But if that tool requires arguments, in this case it's egTrickle requires objects and divisions. If it requires arguments, essentially running that script, it's going to error out. And we're almost guaranteed it's going to error out. I would even say we're not almost, we are guaranteed it's going to error out. There's going to be a problem. So Human just kind of puts its hands up and says, hey, well, okay, I don't know, this is probably not going to work, so I'm going to open you up in the option box. There you go. You got your script UI, so at least you've got the functionality where I could say, okay, let's put that in my objects. I want to say 3 divisions. Boom. Okay, at least I have some backup UI available for this. Okay, now the very, very last option is to go back in and delete egTrickle. And there's a procedure above it called egTrickle X. The X is just there so it wouldn't be picked up properly. I want you to delete the X. So now this is the new egTrickle procedure. Now go in, run egTrickle as a menu item. Okay, what happened there? Well, in this case, that procedure just changed arguments based on what was sourced in Maya. So that very first time after deleting it, yeah, we're going to get the auto UI still because there were probably problems in it, and it sensed that and said, okay, I'm going to go to the auto UI. But now that's been resourced. So the way that it would be for most people if you hadn't just changed the name of that procedure, let's go to examples, egTrickle, boom, it just ran it because now the new version of egTrickle has no arguments whatsoever. So in the trickle down logic it said menu item? No. Window? No. Layout? No. How about the script name itself? Yes. Does it have arguments? No. Okay, I can run that. So if you have very simple tools or things that you just want to be selection based, go ahead and just have no suffix whatsoever, and that will run right away out of the Human UI.